¿Qué onda, plebes? Hope you guys enjoyed that little post-it montage of all of my hours. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be discussing what this title says, how I got into PA school on my first try, and kind of showing you guys and running through my completed CASPA application. So if you can see my screen here, this is caspa.liaisoncast.com. This is essentially the centralized application service for physician assistant schools. And so this is essentially a centralized website where you submit your entire application and you can select what schools you want to apply to, pay for the application, and send it off to the schools. So let me log in here. Okay, so the first thing that I want you guys to notice is once you've made an account and have picked out a specific school that you want to apply to, and you have to manually add every school, you'll be directed to this main portal here, which is the My Application window. If you look up here, there's 4 different headings. There's the My Application. Here's where you can search up specific programs and add them. This is where you actually manually submit your application. And I've picked Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego. And this is where you check the status of your final application. I want you guys to know the PDF that I will be showing is from this specific area within CASPA. Once you've completed your application and this application status changes to verified, you'll be able to download a complete 20 to 30, depending on your application size, document where you can see all of the information that you submitted. Within this section, the My Application section, this is where you would click in and actually go to specific areas to fill out your name and stuff like that. And then within the program materials, this is where you would write specific essays for specific schools. So here I've only picked Point Loma Nazarene University, so that's the only one that's going to come up. It's going to give me some kind of, information about their requirements, their specific questions that they want me to answer, and their prerequisites. So now that you kind of have a rough overview of what CASPA is, let's go into my application. So yeah, this was for the 2020-2021 CASPA application cycle. And if you see things in blue, this is just private information that I've kind of have blurred out. One thing I do ask, if you're watching this video, please don't plagiarize. Again, it goes without saying. I'm mainly showing you guys this so that it is, for your benefit, and so you get an idea of what it takes and kind of what this entire process looks like. And so we'll dive right in. And within the first few pages, I think the first 3 pages, it's just kind of a biographical information, your address, the county that you live in, and asks you to put, where your parents went to school, stuff like that, and describe where you grew up. So I'm kind of going through this pretty quickly. This section here for background information, this you auto-select from a drop-down. For this section, you're kind of self-identifying if you graduated from an underserved area, if if you're a first-generation student, and things like that. So now let's dive into my academic history. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to be diving into every specific class that I took, but I am going to stop at, my C's and F's, so that you guys can, see that and kind of get a background in terms of what went on there. So I graduated in 2014 from Rialto High School, and then was fortunate enough to have gotten into UCLA and did that from 2014 to 2018. Once I finished UCLA and got my bachelor's, I went back to Southern California and was residing in San Bernardino and attended San Bernardino Valley College to get some of the prerequisites that I still needed to apply to PA school. So here we go. So as you can see, 2014, I had some A's, B's. So this was my freshman year in college, and just kind of going through this pretty quickly. I'll stop at my fall semester or quarter as a sophomore. At UCLA, the quarters are 10-week quarters. And I got a C in, what is this, life science? A probability class, a math class. Let's see, B minus is B. We'll keep going. Okay, junior quarter of summer 2016, I got a incomplete for my physics class. And this was actually the quarter where I kind of had some health issues, and this is where I discovered the PA profession. So it was the worst and best thing that happened to me. I had a spontaneous pneumothorax of my right lung. And so during finals week of summer 2016, I was actually in the emergency department and ended up missing my final because they were fixing up my lung. And so I had to take it in the fall, I believe, and all I did was I sat for that exam and ended up getting a C plus miraculously. So yeah. And then here we have my junior quarter, fall of 2016. I'm also very rough looking. I had organic chemistry. I got a C plus. Molecular biology class, I got an F. This class, I actually tried dropping it because I realized that I actually didn't need it for my major. But it was too late. And when I tried to submit that incomplete, and I ended up getting an F. But again, not a valid excuse. And because again, I didn't do my homework, so don't make that mistake. It looks here, I ended up retaking that because I wanted to show, I think, to anyone who would see my transcript that I could handle molecular biology. And so I retook it in the junior quarter of winter 2017 and got a B plus. We'll keep moving. And then genetics, my senior year of college, 2017, I got a C plus. Didn't know what to say. That class was tough. And let's see what else. And we have another C here for comparative psychobiology. And we keep on moving. Got some A's and B's. And now I want you guys to kind of pay attention how we kind of start getting this upward trend where I kind of realized that I needed to take my academics pretty seriously. And I realized this pretty late in the game. Towards the end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year is when I realized that I needed to improve my academics and show the schools if I wanted to, pursue secondary education that I could handle, my academics. And so as you'll see here, I ended up getting A's and we keep that trend going. And then at San Bernardino Valley College, I actually took genetics, microbiology, human anatomy, and human physiology, which are big, I call them heavy hitter classes because these are the classes that PA schools are, they're looking at because these are the ones that resemble most of the stuff that you'll be doing during your didactic year of medicine. And so they want to see that you can handle, rigorous coursework and handle the sciences. And so this is my academic record. Feel free to, go back, pause it, and look at my other classes. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down in this video. So once you submit your CASPA application, it'll take about a week to 2 weeks, depending when you submit, for it to become verified. And what that means is that CASPA will actually, they'll essentially what it sounds like. They're going to verify your application. They're actually going to calculate, depending on the classes that you submitted, they're going to calculate these GPAs, and they will put their stamp of approval that your CASPA application is ready to be viewed and sent off to the schools of your choosing. And so what you'll see and get, you will only see this after you've submitted and after you've been verified, is your calculated CASPA GPA. And so one of the things that I want you guys to pay attention to is my overall GPA, which, as you saw in the beginning of this video, was a 3.30. And then you can see my post-bac science GPA was a 4.0 for those classes that I took after I graduated. And then my cumulative undergraduate science was a 3.35. Now we dive into my extracurricular activities. So it's kind of weird how CASPA ranks them because they're kind of in random order, but we'll just dive through them in the order that they come up. So I have about 600 hours as a musician with the UCLA marching band. I was on the drum line. And so one of the things that I want you guys to know, you can pause this here and kind of read, what I did. But the main thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is how I worded even these extracurricular activities. We want to relate it back to being a PA. And so through this experience, if you read here, I honed my teamwork skills and developed my ability to adapt quickly to changing conditions. I also developed discipline practicing long hours through the summer and fall quarters. And so that was my experience with the marching band. I also did 656 hours as non-patient care. So this wasn't direct patient care, healthcare experience at the pediatric neurology department at UCLA as an administrative assistant for a research office. And so for this one, my key responsibilities included preparing the equipment, kits, and tools necessary to conduct research data collection, calling patients to confirm cancel appointments, organizing properly filing research documentation, maintaining EEG records, and assisting research staff with any logistical issues when screening potential study participants. Throughout this position, I became familiarized with the day-to-day operations of a medical subspecialty and became interested in clinical research. So there's that one. Let's see what's next. And then I worked for about I want to say, what was this? About a year as a Trader Joe's employee. And again, nothing special here, but I again related to the teamwork aspect. And so if you look at the end of this kind of paragraph, and again, you can pause it and read this here if you want. Every hour was characterized by a different job assignment, which helped me develop versatile skills in customer service. Because at the end of the day, guys, medicine is also a customer service job. And I also, during my freshman year, I worked as a front desk attendant for one of the UCLA dorms. And so here I had about 1,000 hours, and my role included answering phones, stuff like that. Through this position, I developed my customer service skills, communication skills, and interdepartmental collaboration. Because again, I had to call different departments within UCLA, maintenance department, and had to take care of guests. So all these things, we include them because again, they show that we have, life experience and that we have customer service experience. All right, now we get into the nitty gritty, my actual patient care experiences. And so one mistake that I want to point out is that I submitted my CASPA applications pretty early on. I think probably 1 month. I think they open usually mid-April. I submitted about a month after it opened. But I had just started working as an emergency room technician at Loma Linda. And so when I had initially submitted my application, I hadn't added the details of my job as an emergency room technician. And so what I ended up doing later on is you can make edits and add, or not make edits, you can add additional experiences. But one of the things that I didn't notice is that when you hit save, it saves it permanently. The mistake that I made was that I submitted all this information here, the patient care experience, the address of the hospital that I worked at. And then I was like, I actually put in my hours, and then for experience details, if you see in red, I put DF. I just kind of put a placeholder. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write this later on. I hit save. Well, it saved it permanently on my application. And so I actually had to go back in there, do another submission, and actually write what I actually wanted to tell them. And I put correction in lieu of DFD entry, the mistake that I made. And I kind of, described my job in the emergency room. And so I worked as a patient care assistant, telemetry technician, and unit secretary in a fast-paced adult and pediatric emergency department with level 1 trauma designation. I provide direct, indirect, age-specific, and developmentally appropriate patient care as directed. That includes vital, splinting, EKGs, assisting other providers during traumas and lower acuity cases. Through this role, I am further developing my interpersonal skills, bedside manner, and experiencing firsthand the collaborative work between physicians, physician assistants, and nurses. Yeah, I started working at Loma Linda right when COVID started. Before that, I was working as an EMT. I got hired on for a fire department for a Indian reservation that also operates a casino. And so I did that for not very much, 160 hours that I worked as a casino EMT. And so I put there, I would do everything, getting vital signs, administering the naloxone, obtaining a full medical history, and completing work injury reports for casino employees. In addition, I was also involved in COVID-19 screening efforts. And so this experience was unfortunately cut short because of COVID, but it opened up the opportunity for me to pivot towards the emergency department and work in that capacity during the pandemic. Okay, and so the bulk of my patient care experience hours actually came from working as an emergency technician on the ambulance, doing BLS, ALS, and critical care transports with American Medical Response out in Southern California. And so I got 2,528 hours. And the way I worded this experience was this way, kind of similar to the casino one. My key responsibilities included providing care for sick, injured individuals, recognizing signs and symptoms of illness, maintaining thorough familiarity with treatment protocols, transferring patients onto a gurney and into the ambulance, obtaining vital signs, level of consciousness, blah, 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 administering naloxone, relaying a brief report to the base hospital. So, I mean, if you guys want to, take a picture of this, feel free to, because this is essentially what EMTs do. And so this is one way to word your experience details. But again, you're giving them a picture of the things that you're allowed to do as an EMT. So now we're going into my research experience. So before I decided to pursue the PA profession, I was interested in becoming a medical doctor and was pursuing the MD route. And so very early on at UCLA, which is a big research heavy school, I had the opportunity to get involved during my sophomore year doing clinical research. And so one of the things that I want to make very, very, very clear is that you do not need research. You do not need publications for PA school. This is definitely more of an MD-DO pre-med route thing that medical schools like to see, but it's not a requirement necessarily for PA schools. This is just something that I had, and again, it was just another like topping that made my application, stand out. So I had about 520 volunteer hours. And so my ongoing participation as a clinical research has developed my passion for research. My role includes working closely with supervising physician Dr. Blank, attending weekly meetings discussing current and future projects, and data abstraction. Our program's research includes examining the nature of infantile spasms, ongoing clinical trials to identify efficacious drug therapies, and efforts to identify factors that predict the best treatment for individual patients. Now, I only shadowed 2 providers. I shadowed one PA, which was just once, and one medical doctor who I shadowed multiple times and who actually happened to be the same doctor that I work with when I was doing research at UCLA. And so the first shadowing experience here is the PA. And so here I say I had the privilege of shadowing a psychiatric PA, and I only got 10 hours for this. This experience was unique because it allowed me to be hands-on. The main procedure I assisted with was conscious sedation of pediatric patients for SPECT imaging. In addition to observing the PA, I had the opportunity to translate the procedure to Spanish-speaking parents, assist in safely restraining the patient, monitor vitals, fluid bags during the sedation procedure. In total, I assisted the sedation of 3 different patients. And then I have my other shadowing experience where I got 50 hours shadowing an MD. I shadowed attending physician Blank and his team of residents on their rounds of inpatient pediatric neurology patients. Each day began with a 1-hour briefing of all the patients, their progress, setback suggestions, and questioning of residents. Given my ongoing research with Dr. Blank, he would frequently include me in the meeting by having me present our current findings regarding the efficacy of a therapy used to treat infantile spasms. After the briefing, we would visit the patient's rooms and would update each patient, parent, guardian. And so this was, again, very much rounding on the patients in the pediatric neurology ward of the hospital. Now we dive into some volunteer work. So I was involved kind of infrequently, but still significantly with providing first aid services to a men's ministry at my dad's church. And so I wrote that in here. I volunteered as an on-site EMT for men's ministry retreats. They lasted 4 days, 3 nights, occurred twice a year. I was involved in medical screening of all attendees to ensure that no one would have health problems associated with the altitude change, as the retreat site was in the San Bernardino Mountains. And I also had some other experience. Again, it's okay to include, church experiences or volunteer work that you've done through, your churches. And so I did a total of 575 hours as a young adult counselor. My position required me to identify the needs, concerns, and opportunities for spiritual and emotional growth of young men and women within our church. In addition, I consistently volunteered for church services on a Sunday as a greeter, and on Thursdays I led a small group Bible study. I think the main takeaway from these experiences is that schools want to see that you're not only invested in medicine, but that you're doing other things and volunteering in other ways and contributing to your community. Okay, we're about halfway done with the application. And then one of the other things that I got involved with while I was at UCLA was the Latino Student Health Project under Chicanos for Community Medicine. And so here I did about 60 hours as a member of the Latino Student Health Project at UCLA. Our mission was to reduce the risk of chronic diseases and promote health awareness within low-income communities. This mission was carried out by organizing health fairs, health education workshops to medically underserved communities in Los Angeles and Tecate, Mexico. My role entailed the following: providing screenings for BMI, hypertension, glucose, and other comorbidities during the health fairs, assisting nurses, doctors in the administration of vaccinations, visiting high schools, and discussing various health issues with students. Sweet, we're done with the experiences. Now moving on to professional membership. So one of the things I highly recommend, if you are a pre-PA, get involved with the American Academy of Physician Associates and also with the local California Academy of PA, so CAPA. And I was able to include that in my application, and it shows, as you can read in my description, I am an affiliate pre-PA member with the AAPA. Having this membership allows me to remain informed with current issues facing the PA profession at a state and national level. I was also a member with the American Epilepsy Society. And then I won't read this, but it's just kind of I got this from their website, what the professional organization stands for and what we would, do, which was essentially research for pediatric epilepsy. All right, moving on to the next thing. These are achievements. And here I've included essentially research publications. Again, not necessary for PA school by any means, but again, they are a nice thing to have. And so I won't dive too much into. If you want to read, what these are about, you can pause here and read that. But I'm kind of continue to move quickly. And yeah, how many did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4 publications. And then a research poster. And then I also included, my final senior year, I had the privilege of making honors list at UCLA. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into my personal statement. Again, I'm going to show this personal statement. And the way I kind of approach my personal statement is that I discussed how I discovered the PA profession. Then I talked about, what I've been doing and why I'm pursuing the PA profession now. And what I hope to accomplish. And so those are the 3 kind of things that I tried to communicate in my personal statement. And so I'll go ahead and read it. The right side of my back feels sore as I walk up another set of stairs. I continue to walk across campus, gripping my chest as each breath I take aggravates my pain. I eventually arrive at the UCLA student clinic, and within minutes I am sitting in an examination room. A young man in a white coat walks in, shakes my hand, and introduces himself as a physician assistant, PA. Until this moment, I had never been assessed by a PA. He proceeded to ask me all the pertinent questions regarding my pain, checked my breath sounds, ordered an x-ray, and within minutes diagnosed a spontaneous pneumothorax. He sent me to the emergency room immediately. Before leaving, I bombarded him with questions. I told him I was confused about how something like this could happen. He listened and answered the how. I asked him what would happen to me. He listened and answered the what. I told him I was scared. He listened and reassured me that I would be okay. I left the emergency room 10 hours later with a sore chest and a tube annoyingly rubbing between my skin and flannel. The following day, I received an email from the PA that read, "I hope you are doing well and I wish you a speedy recovery. Is there anything I can do to help you at this time?" I quickly replied, thanking him for all his help, care, and attentiveness. Looking back at this experience, I gained 2 things: a healthier right lung and a newfound knowledge of what a physician assistant is. A healthcare provider who listens, diagnoses, reassures, and goes the extra mile for their patients. This PA showed his commitment to me as his patient when he sent me that follow-up email to make sure I was properly cared for, something I had not received from a provider before. My experience under his care left a lasting impression on me and inspired me to pursue the PA profession. Fast forward 3 years, I am in the back of an ambulance working as an emergency medical technician, transporting a young man with a suspected pneumothorax from a local urgent care to Loma Linda University Medical Center. On that call, I had the clinical opportunity to listen to his diminished breath sounds and treat him for hypoxia. After asking my patient the necessary questions for my report, I listened to and addressed his emotional distress, answered his questions, and shared my own experiences with this uncomfortable condition. Despite my limited scope of interventions, I was able to comfort him using high-flow oxygen, a warm blanket, and a word of reassurance, having been through this myself. I wanted to treat him with the same high-quality care that the PA back at UCLA had given me when I was going through the same medical emergency. Once he was checked in at LLUMC, an emergency medicine PA approached me to receive a report on my patient. She then explained to the patient that he would most likely need a needle aspiration, and similar to my PA, she addressed each one of his concerns and put him at ease. I left that emergency room confident that my patient would be okay, impressed by the EMPA's scope of practice, and motivated to further my education to that level of expertise. As I collectively reflect on my experiences as a patient, student, frontline healthcare worker, and colleague to allied health professionals, I envision the type of PA I aim to become. As an assistant with the pediatric neurology department, I made it possible for patients to schedule an appointment and access the care they needed. I look forward to being a readily accessible provider to patients as a PA. As a member of the Latino Student Health Project, I provided preventative health care to residents of underserved areas. I am passionate about returning to communities in need and serving them in the highest capacity as a PA. As a member of the UCLA Marching Band, I performed alongside a disciplined and highly coordinated team. Similarly, I look forward to collaborating with a team of healthcare professionals as a PA. As a teenager translating for my mother at the doctor's office, I advocated for someone who could not advocate for themselves. I continue to advocate in my role as an EMT and look forward to advocating for my patients as a PA. As the oldest brother sharing my career aspirations with my younger siblings, I had the privilege of introducing them to the PA profession. I hope to inspire others to join this profession as others have done for me. As an EMT, I give my patients time to express their needs and worries, something I admire in the PAs that I have worked with and plan to continue as a PA. As an undergraduate epilepsy researcher, I conduct clinical research and publish articles that contribute to the field. I am committed to a lifetime of learning and plan to continue my involvement in research as a PA. I desire to become a PA to advance the profession and genuinely care for my community by providing quality healthcare, support, and advocacy with integrity and compassion. So that was my personal statement. I hope you guys didn't fall asleep while I was reading it. But hopefully it gives you some ideas how you can write your own. So now we have licenses and certifications. Here I included my now expired, what is this? Oh no, my CPR and AED Pro, I still have that. This was my BLS certification, my PHTLS certification that I have from the National Association of EMTs, my EMT license, that's expired, and then some other courses that I took as an emergency room technician at Loma Linda. And again, if you want to read this, you can, pause that here. And then here we have references and evaluations. And so with CASPA, the way it works is that you submit an email and name of the person that you want to send your letter of recommendation to, and CASPA will send a link to them where they can submit that letter of rec. And they have to do it on their end. And then once they do that, you'll get this completed status. And so I got, I think, 5 letters of recommendation. I got one from my genetics and microbiology professor, a doctor who worked at San Bernardino Valley College, and then one of the PAs that I worked with in the emergency department. I got a letter of rec from them, and then a youth pastor from the church that I was attending in Southern California, and then the physician that I worked under doing research at UCLA. And then, wait, is that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last one here is my EMT supervisor at my time at American Medical Response. And then here's just some other kind of questions about if you've ever committed crimes and stuff like that. How did you hear about the PA profession? Let's see what else we got. And then during COVID, they actually had an additional prompt where they asked you, I don't know if they still have this, but when I applied, they asked, please describe how COVID has impacted your pathway to becoming a PA. And so the way I answered this, I'll just go ahead and read it. I discussed how it impacted academically and professionally and personally. So academically, my physiology class moved online and my interaction with my professor became limited due to technical difficulties on my professor's end. Most online office hour sessions were either canceled or postponed to a later time that interfered with my work schedule. I was able to successfully communicate through email, but I missed out on establishing a strong professor-student rapport. And then for my professional, during the early months of the pandemic, I was working as an EMT with American Medical Response, serving San Bernardino County. Once the state shut down non-essential businesses and advised everyone to stay home, my work hours were cut. I consistently was sent home early by my supervisors. During March, I began seeking new job opportunities. Essentially, what I'm saying here is that on the 21st of May of 2020, I was laid off from my position from the fire department due to the impact of COVID-19 on tribal business operations. I was unemployed for roughly 1 month and was hired mid-June as an emergency services technician at Loma Linda University. And then personally, 2 of my planned PA shadowing experiences were canceled. I am attempting to find PAs to shadow via telemedicine. And secondly, my plans to volunteer on a missions trip with my church to Tecate, Mexico was canceled. In addition, my volunteer research work at UCLA was suspended. And so this halted the submission of an additional publication. And then it's just some kind of user agreements and stuff like that. I think we are done. And the last thing you will see is for every specific school under the application status verified, you'll have the name of the school that you apply to. So it'll say like something like UC Davis or Point Loma, and it will actually pull up the supplemental questions for that specific school. This is where you would see that if you had supplemental questions. And then one of the things that you actually have to fill out yourself is you have to auto-select your undergraduate coursework that fulfills the prerequisites for every individual school. So for this specific program, I met the 8 minimum credits of general biology with the classes that I took at UCLA. And then my medical terminology requirement was met from a class I took at San Bernardino Valley College. And yeah, this application, I remember now, was for Charles Drew. And so here you see I met the human physiology requirement with my classes from Valley, from UCLA, and just some other classes to meet those requirements. Let's see, is there anything else? And that is it. All right, guys, we made it. So that was my entire CASPA application. If you have any questions at all, please write in the comments. I'm sure other students have those questions as well, and I'm here to answer those. I hope you found this helpful, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in another video. Animo.